So I've got to show you all the setup that I did to get that thumbnail photo. I'm here at the house by myself, so had to get a little creative. But I set up one of our stools in our sink right there, and then balanced my phone on that water bottle. And I put it on a timer, and I ran behind the pile of books that I set up on our little island, got behind it, and took the shot. So I'm getting creative here on my thumbnails and, putting a little work. But anyways, let's get to the 100 books that I'm reading this year and why. Enjoy the vid. So, starting things off, and the first book I'm planning to read this year, I'll probably read it all today, is How Iceland Changed the World. This book was recommended to me by my friend Creed. He said it was really cool. And then shout out to Brian and Sarah for buying this for me for Christmas. This book is the big history of a small island. I almost said the big story of a small island. The big history of a small island. And it says here on the back, the untold story of how one tiny island in the middle of the Atlantic has shaped the world for centuries. I'm a huge fan of history. I know nothing about Iceland, so I'm excited to jump in to this book. That's what we'll be starting off with. Up next, we have the series that's probably going to take me the longest amount of time to read. We have the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan, represented by the first 3 books that I have right here. I don't have the rest of the books. There's 14 in the series total, but my friend has the other 11, so I'll be getting those from him soon and diving into these. I'm excited to read these because supposedly one of the best fantasy series of all time, and so I feel like as a fan of fantasy, I just need to read these. And I also find it a little bit amusing that Robert Jordan himself actually passed away before finishing all the books. Sad that he passed away, obviously, but he just wrote such a big series and it was going on so long that he didn't even have time to finish it. And so Brandon Sanderson had to come in and finish out the series. So I'm excited to see how he takes someone else's work and finishes off the series. And I'm excited to get into the Wheel of Time. But speaking of Brandon Sanderson, that brings us to our next couple of books. Some originals of Brandon Sanderson himself. We have the Mistborn trilogy, as well as the first 3 books of the Stormlight Archive. I believe there's 5 total in this. I got the first 3 books of this for Christmas, as well as getting the Mistborn series for Christmas. But Brandon Sanderson is considered right now to be the best fantasy writer, the fantasy writer of this generation. So I feel like, as I said, as a fan of fantasy, I need to be reading these books. So these are pretty thick right here. These 5 will probably take me a little bit to read, but excited to get into those. And these books, while not sequels or prequels of each other, they're all set in the same universe. I believe it's called the Cosmere, that Brandon Sanderson is currently crafting. And he's still very much alive and writing more books. So big thing to come with reading Brandon Sanderson. Moving on to a series that's a little less lengthy. I got these from my dad's book collection. We have Ian Fleming's The James Bond books. So these are some pretty quick reads. I've always enjoyed the James Bond movies. My dad's a huge fan of all the James Bond movies and books. So I'll have a bunch of these to read, some good old spy novels. Who doesn't love James Bond? There we go. Speaking of my dad, we've got a few more books that were definitely inspired by him. We have the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book series. There's 4 of these. I've read the first 2 before, and they're absolutely hilarious. So I'm gonna enjoy reading some comedy books while I'm doing this 100-book challenge. And then we also have Gentle Ben, which is about a boy and his pet bear. My dad loves bears. I think this is one of his favorite books. So some more books for the challenge. I had to set up some companion stools for this next book series. This is the series that will definitely have the most amount of books. I don't think it'll take me the longest to read, as I said, Wheel of Time, because they're just a lot bigger. But the most amount of books, I think, coming in are 20, 22, something like that. We have the Ranger's Apprentice series, as well as the sequel to those, or companions, the Brother Band Chronicles. I read probably the first 7 Ranger's Apprentice books when I was younger, maybe late middle, early high school, and I really enjoyed them, but I never finished the whole series. And then these were all written after I've read the last book that I read, and so I'm excited to get back into these and read the rest of these that were written. I know my brother and some of my cousins really love all these books. Heard good things. So shout out John Flanagan for writing these books. I'm gonna be reading them. I decided to start stacking the books I already talked about on the table back here. Keep a nice log. I guess I need to move these back to the table, but they're kind of keeping me a companion right now. The next two books I'm going to talk about are probably the oldest books that I'll be reading this year. We have Homer's The Iliad and the Odyssey. Just two absolute classics. I mean, I've read excerpts of these books like in school, and obviously know the story from just all the spin-offs and things that have been created from both these two books, but I've never read all the way through either one of these, so it's about time for my my brain to have read these. Hooray. Bob. I'm gonna move these back as well. Oof! Goodness gracious, these are heavy. Alright, what to grab next? Okay, right here we have this series, Keeper of the Lost Cities, books 1 through 5 that I have right here, recommended to me by my cousin Emma. I really have no idea what these books are about, but she said that I think it's her favorite series aside from Harry Potter itself. So high praise from Emma. Excited to get into these books. I feel like they'll be pretty easy reads. I think there's like 9 total books though, so that definitely helps bring the number up. Also, if I say the incorrect amount of any of these books, I apologize. I'm just going off my memory of like researching them when I was making this list, but I'll have a little helpful counter that you've already seen up in the corner of the screen about the total number that I've gotten to and talked about. While we're on the topic of books I don't know really anything about, we'll bring up this. And I mean, I have no idea how to say this, Temeraire series. Probably totally butchered that. I bought these 3 books actually for my brother for his birthday last year, or like in 2021. They are historical fiction books. It's about the Napoleonic Wars if they had dragons. So excited about these. Evan really liked them. I think there's 7 or 9 in this series. I have the first 3 books right here. So gonna be diving into all of the Temeraire series. They had to be on the list. The king of fantasy itself. We have J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings series. Not only do I have The Hobbit as well as the original 3 books, but I also have The Great Tales of Middle-earth, which I had never read. I've read The Hobbit and the original 3, but these works were completed by Christopher Tolkien, J.R.'s son, and I'm excited to get into them because it goes into more in depth of some of the stories that Tolkien started writing. And he wrote like, you know, parts of this, but Christopher helped fill in the rest. So excited to read those. Oof. The originals written by J.R. himself over here. You can't have a book challenge and not read Lord of the Rings. Moving on to another single book that made the list, we have one of the Sherlock Holmes books. I don't think I've actually ever read any of the Sherlock Holmes books, so I'm excited to read it. This is The Hound of the Baskervilles. Ta-da! This next series was inspired by my mom. She actually read these to me and Evan, my younger brother, when we were growing up. It is The Deathgate Cycle. I'm choosing to read these because I don't really remember very much of them when she read them to us. I don't know if I just fell asleep too much when she read them to us at night, but excited to dive into these. I know my brother and my mom really loved them, and yeah, it's got a dragon on the cover, so what's not to like about that? And then finally, we've got the books that are currently holding up my phone, so I need to do a little bit of this. Here I am. We've got the Broken Earth trilogy. These were recommended by a YouTube video I watched, just saying it's a really good fantasy series. So as it says, it's a trilogy. 3 of these books right here, and excited to see what they're all about. That was it for the physical books that I have, but I still do have 2 more to make it an even 100 books for the year, and that is the final 2 books of The Tamuli by David Eddings. They're the books that I've been listening to on audiobook as I've been running, and like I listened to the first one of that. There were 3 like before that, but I've got those 2 left, and I'll make it 100 books on the year. I may end up reading more than 100, but the minimum is definitely 100. As I was researching books, there were other books that I don't own. I was like, oh, I want to get those and read that. So we'll see what the total number ends up at. I also have the Woodlands Book Challenge, which will be 7 more books that I will have to add on to. So once I read a book, I'll post a review here on the vlog, give it a recommendation or non-recommendation if I don't like it. But subscribe along to keep updated on the 100 book challenge. Definitely comment below your favorite book or favorite book series. I'm always looking to read new and exciting books, and maybe next year I'll do a 200 book challenge and take some of y'all's suggestions. We'll see. But anyways, thanks for watching this episode of the Daily Vlog, Book Edition, and I'll see you again tomorrow. See ya. Also, bonus content here for those that follow along each day with the daily vlog. The marathon training is going well. It is next month, so big things coming up at the end of February. I'm feeling really good, feeling ready for it. I ran an hour today, just staying in shape for that, staying on the plan. And then as far as reading the Bible, I read the next chapter in Acts. I believe it was Acts 7. Yeah, where Stephen gave his testimony and witness, and then unfortunately was stoned by the stiff-necked leaders of the Jewish people. So, moving along in the book of Acts, and now, thanks for watching the daily vlog. I'll see you again tomorrow. For real, goodbye.